Hello, hello, hello! For those of you listening, you may have been fooled. For those of you watching, almost certainly not. I am James. I am a producer here at LaunchPod Studios, where we proudly host On the Sofa with Sisu. We're recording today's episode with the absence of both Olajide and Louisa, which makes making a show slightly difficult. However, I am pleased to be able to bring you some of the best bits from the E&I topics of the week from season 1, which gives you a great opportunity to catch up with everything that they've both been discussing in the world of E&I over the first season, so that you can continue joining us here in season 2. Wherever you're watching or listening this podcast, please drop us a comment, like, subscribe. But for now, enjoy the show.
So let's get into it. So I feel like, DEI work is work that no one really has an understanding, I guess, around the money or the value that goes alongside it. And it's always a very interesting conversation when you get into businesses, and because we don't initially talk about money. Like, money for us is not like the big thing. For us, it's about really collaborating and partnering up with these businesses to really have an ongoing partnership and relationship with them. That's at the forefront of our mind all the time. So when it comes down to the tea, when it comes down to the money, and people are like, "Oh, we've got no budget," it's slightly disappointing, because you feel like it'd be nice if people did come into the conversation with the budget already. But we're more than happy to kind of talk you through how you put the budget aside, and then starting small, and then growing as you get along. I think the businesses where it works really well, wouldn't you say, is ones where we've gone in and people have said, "Yeah, we've got some money aside."
Yeah, absolutely. Or even if it's a straight up honesty. We haven't quite worked out what the budget is for this work yet, but this is why we wanted to have this initial conversation with you, so that we can kind of get a feel and an idea around what we need to do, so we then it's easier for us to allocate the budget to it. So it's kind of like working backwards in a way.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Yeah. I think it's all about honesty and opening up that conversation with the honest and trusting dialogue.
Yeah, and I think it's getting a better understanding that the more you invest in this work, the more impactful it can be, because there is so much you can do with it, and the more you do, the better. But we're not saying that you need to spend millions of pounds.
No. What
we're saying is that you need to think of it as you're investing back into your people, and eventually your people will give you back what you've invested in.
Absolutely, and I think also it's about not just spending a lot of money in one period of time and then being like, right, we'll have these 2 workshops in this summer and we'll spend $6,000 on it and then that's it, done. It's like, we want to build the strategy out, and it needs to be over the course of the year. That's really where the investment is it the time?
Yeah.
And the journey, and then the budget comes after.
Yeah, I just think that people maybe don't understand the emotion and the time and the creativity it takes. None of this stuff is off the shelf, is it really? Because you don't just go on and go.
Not with us, no.
Well, not with us.
I think there are consultancies that do off the shelf.
Oh, she's spilling it. She's spilling it all over the place.
Bespoke, darling.
We are bespoke, which does mean that we take a lot more time and effort, and it's more creative. And I think people sometimes forget that time is money. Time is money. Emotions is tax, and emotional tax is huge. Like we just said, we spent the whole month going around talking to people around how to be an anti-racist, and sharing stories that are really, emotive and triggering and traumatic. We share a lot of our stories and a lot of stories that we've heard from our friends and our network, and that is all emotional tax, and that takes a lot out of people, and it's really hard to put a value on that time and on that tax.
That is a perfect example, though, isn't it, of where it's been successful. Turtle Bay have gone into this knowing exactly what they want to spend on it. they have had a big budget, knowing exactly what they want to spend on it, building out the work, bringing everybody into it, and the success already of it is unbelievable. You've got people coming out of these sessions who have walked in there thinking, can't be asked, absolutely CBA,
and they're walking in going,
not thinking that they're not
what am I
going to
learn
anything
about racism? What is
Yeah.
Kurt Obey going to teach me about racism?
Exactly. And then the feedback from it has actually just been unbelievable, unreal. You've got those people walking out feeling like enlightened and inspired and like empowered and motivated to do more. And, you know, that's the success. That is the example.
James wants an example. What would you like an example of, James?
For example, remember I actually voice noted you the other day, and I was like, this is such a highlight for me, because last year we started doing this work with Turtle Bay, and we started with the Power Inclusion workshop, and we did it with the ops manager, and there was an ops manager in there who came in with a very closed mind, quite defensive, you know, had the whole like typical white fragility, privilege kind of outlook, defensive, a little bit challenging. And I was like, oh, God, so annoying, like, shush. And he was in my session last week for the All About Race workshop. And when he walked in, I was a bit like, oh, God. And then, I'm not even going to lie.
Yeah, you were like, oh God, here we go. Because in the first session that we did, he had some comments that were just a bit like, you shouldn't be saying things like that as a leader, and you should be...
Bit of a Lee Ryan.
Yeah, bit of a Lee Ryan. You should just be taking it all in right now and, you know, maybe keeping the commentary to the minimum. But he didn't, and he was kind of like quite oppositional about everything that we were saying, and like everything was like he was taking it personally, basically.
Yes, he was. And then, anyway, we got into the workshop, and he sat down, and he was so involved and engaged, and he was like so honest, and he was talking about like how his first experience of racism was like through his grandparents and how racist they were, and he's like realised that now as you get older you really have to address your own biases and you have to address racism within yourself to be able to tackle it. And I was like, yes, sir! Yes, sir! I was like, yeah, A student.
Yeah, he had a proper 360, didn't he?
Yeah.
360, 180.
360 is when you go all the way around, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know, how do you want to play it?
All the way around. He went all the way around and came back again and was like, I am here for this.
Yeah, it was so
bless him.
nice. It was such a nice feeling.
It was actually really nice hearing the voice note from you, because I was like, because I had actually seen it from him already, because I'd done a session with him already on the Race Road show.
Yeah.
So I was excited to see how you found it, him, and if you'd seen the growth, and I was really like happy.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, like that's where you go, this is impactful, this is making a difference. And like I had someone walk into the session, roll their eyes and went, I don't actually know why I'm here, because I am a person of colour and I don't feel like this is going to be teaching me anything.
Yeah.
And then they left the session saying, I actually have learned so much more, because there were so many words and terminology around race and racism that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And there's also so many different ways to be racist that I didn't know existed. And I've actually also learned that my colleagues have seen or experienced different types of racism, because everyone always thinks that racism is a black thing.
Yes.
Like, and it's like, race is black, white, Asian, it's all the colours under the sun.
Yeah.
Like, race can happen to anyone. And so it was nice for him to experience that race happening to some of his white colleagues in certain situations, in certain areas. And he walked out of there going, I'm really grateful that you came here, and I'm really grateful that I decided to come, because I've learned so much. And he was really grateful and thanked. He gave me a hug, gave me a really good, nice hug, and it was really nice. And I think those are the reasons why you do this work, right? This is what you do it for, those like
100%.
those little
Nuggets,
yeah. And like I always say to people, because the training team the last couple of weeks have all been like, there's been quiet people in the sessions that haven't really spoke up, and and I don't know if they're seeing the value of this. I don't know if they're enjoying it. And I'm like, do you know what? You can't change the opinion of every single person that walks into your workshop.
No.
You can only sometimes change the opinion of one person. If you change the opinion of one person, they're going to go off and change the opinion of someone else. And that's how it starts to make change.
Absolutely.
You don't make change by going into a room and trying and changing everyone's opinion. You go into a room and trying to change one person's opinion, and then they'll carry that on and move it around.
Pay it forward.
Yeah. And that's what I think I've started to understand and see the value of the work that we do.
Yeah.
Just those one little conversations that we have with one person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something that we always try and communicate with organisations, isn't it? That like, this isn't going to, you can't just do a one-off and then everything is going to be hunky-dory, perfect, no discrimination whatsoever. Like, it is a journey, and you can't measure success from 1 2-hour workshop. This has got to be, even if it's not with us, we're just always like, you have to continue the work internally. You know, you have to keep on having these conversations. You have to make sure that you bring everyone into it, involve everybody. And
the value comes from embedding this into your everyday. And once you embed it, then the value, you can see the value every day. You see it so easily. And I think that's where people are misaligned and stuff that they don't really quite understand. It's like a lot of people approach us for one-offs.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to understand the value of that one-off and then trying to measure success of the one-off. And you're like, well, I can't be, it's just so difficult to come and do one workshop and then tell you this is how you're going to measure success from that workshop, because you're not. Like, realistically, you're not. We can't come in and do one workshop around, I don't know, for instance, with inclusivity and recruitment, and then you go off and you change the way you recruit and you become inclusive overnight. You just can't, because you really have to unlearn a lot of these habits that we've all learned and picked up. And like, there's so much debunking of stereotyping and bias that we need to do. So we're going to move on to the juiciest part of the show, which is getting into the E&I topic of the week, which is all around... We need a jingle for everything. E&I topic of the week. There you go. What's it called when you like, you don't let anyone else, no one can steal your like jingle?
Copyrighted?
Copyright. That's copywritten. Everyone, don't take it. I don't want to see it on TikTok. I don't want to see it on TikTok. E&I topic of the week. So this week we are talking about diversity versus representation.
Yes.
Yeah? That's the topic. So let's get into it. First of all, should we start off from the beginning?
Yes.
You're looking at me like, what's the beginning?
I mean, that is exactly what I'm looking at you like.
You're like,
what is the beginning of this?
Do tell.
Yeah.
So the beginning is, we obviously set up our consultancy with diversity, inclusion and well-being. That was our consultancy. That was what the focus was. And
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going from the beginning. So we set the consultancy up as a diversity, inclusion and wellbeing consultancy, because that's what we thought was the right thing to do at the time. And I guess
that's what we knew about.
That's what we knew about, yeah. And that's what the conversation has always been about.
And now we know better.
So we started doing the work, and then I guess we realised that everyone's talking about diversity.
It was after we got approached so many times, wasn't it? About
during Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, we need to be more diverse.
Yeah.
We need to be more diverse.
Yeah.
We're like, okay.
What specifically are you looking for? Yeah.
We need more black people. Oh, right, okay. That's not diversity, but fine. That's not only diversity.
Yeah. It happened so often though, didn't it?
It happened so much.
So much in 2020.
We need to do something about this.
It was annoying because it was like...
It's frustrating.
And the way that people would say it as well, it's just like, so we need more black people.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that, black people? And I was like, yeah, you can say black people. Yeah, I'm black. So we had this frustration, I guess.
Fluorescent beige.
I'm black, bitch. That's a Beyonce song. If you don't know, you need to know. So we had this, I guess, aha moment where we were like, actually, we could be set ourselves aside from everyone else and be really different here and fucking drop the D. Drop the D. So we were like, okay, what does that even mean? Drop the D. Explosion. James, add it in. So what we mean by that is that the focus needs not be on diversity. Why, Louisa?
Because diversity is all around us. Diversity exists without us having to focus on it. It's natural, it's organic, it's everywhere. Every human being encompasses a whole shitload of diversity within them. So it's not something that we need to focus on within businesses because it already exists there.
Yeah. And I think that businesses were focusing on it so much that they were forgetting about the diversity that was already within their business.
Yeah.
And so they were focusing so much on, we need to attract more diverse candidates. So we need to make sure that we are putting jobs on places that black people might apply or disabled people might apply or LGBT people might apply. And it's what? Like, literally, those different types of people don't go on specific job boards looking for specific jobs in those for their characteristics.
Yeah, they're trying not to exclude themselves.
They don't want to work with other gay people. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, we were having the same conversation. So we were just like, okay, rewind selector. We are going to be...
Is that a thing now?
Rewind selector. Is that not the first... I thought that was the first time I said it. I thought it was really cool.
You definitely said that last time.
Did I?
That's Jake's.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's a thing.
Rewind selector. Okay. Oh, there's so many little jingles that we've got in this show. It's absolutely jokes. So we rewind selector and we were like, what are we gonna be? Who are we? And then we were like, actually, the focus really needs to be on equity first. And then equality and an inclusion, and well-being, rather than it being diversity, inclusion, and well-being.
Yeah.
And I think that really then meant that we were like focusing more on how do you make sure that businesses become more inclusive, equitable, and have a sense of belonging for the team.
Yeah.
And then when we started to have conversations with businesses now and people, when they mentioned diversity, we were like, well, actually, your business is really diverse. And then they go, no, our business is full of loads of white people in leadership and they're mainly men who are over the age of 40. And then you go, well, that's not a diversity issue.
No.
That's a representation problem, darling. You need more representation in your senior leadership.
Yes.
That's what you need. And do you know how you do that? By hiring us. This champagne has gone to my head. But no, in all seriousness, it's funny because we had real like moments where we were like, it makes so much sense that we don't focus on diversity because people are getting lost in the D.
Yeah.
Like, lost in the D. Stop. I need to stop. Oh, God.
I'm here for it.
Explain. You take over. Explain why people were getting lost in the D.
That was your train of thought.
I know, but you're in my head. You're in here all the time. Let's take over.
People getting lost in the D. Well, I think that is the summary, really, isn't it? That getting lost in diversity, getting too caught up in needing to hire representation and labelling it diversity when you're not actually concentrating on the employees that you already have to maintain retention, to make sure that you've got an inclusive culture, to make sure that you have a sense of belonging for your people, to speak to your people and actually understand why is there no representation in your business?
Yeah.
You know, from the horse's mouth, why is there no representation in your business? Why are people not progressing up into managerial roles or senior leadership roles, and above? Why is that not happening? You know, what kind of message are you putting out? What's your marketing? You know, what does your website look like? What's your language use? So much stuff that you need to look at, so many aspects that you need to overhaul to understand why that representation isn't sitting in your business already, not just the recruitment piece. You know, why are we not attracting any ethnic minorities into our business? That's not where you start.
No.
You're like halfway through the journey before you've even started.
Yeah, and the problem is that it's not a problem, I guess. Well, no, it is a problem. I'm gonna be straight. I'm gonna be frank with you, okay? The problem is that if you try and attract diverse people into your business and you haven't got the equitable processes, the equitable training, like you're not treating everyone as individuals and you're not making sure that everyone feels like they belong and they're included, then those people are going to come in and going to go, fuck this, I'm out. Topic of the week. So what have you brought to the table today?
Well, because we've highlighted a lot on sort of representation and tokenism, I'm keen to have a conversation about how you represent neurodiversity and LGBTQIA+ community, because we've spoken a lot about sort of representation in, like, you know, to do with gender and to do with race. These are visual representations, right? But if you're neurodivergent or you are from the LGBTQIA+ community, then you're not visually representative of your group. So that would be that's the conversation I would like to have today.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's hard. Yeah, you can't see it. You can't see neurodiversity. You can't see if I'm gay, lesbian, trans, bi, whatever.
No.
So how do you represent without having to introduce yourself as, oh, I'm da-da-da-da, and I've got a neurodiversity, I'm neurodiverse, or I'm da-da-da-da, and I'm gay, and I'm da-da-da-da, I'm trans.
So introducing yourself, you're not going to start introducing yourself as that. But
I never,
like,
but some people do though, right? Some people actually feel the need to have to introduce themselves, and
I think depending on the setting, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I've come across a lot of people that I feel like their intro is always a lot to do with their sexuality. Is like part of their intro, whereas I don't think I've written generally. Like today on the panel, I didn't feel the need to have to say that I was gay.
No, I know,
I mean?
but this is what I'm saying. So like, if you was like just going out for dinner with somebody and they brought their friend along, they might not go, oh hi, I'm Sarah and I'm a lesbian and I come from Sweden. Like, they might not, you know, that's a setting where you probably wouldn't. That'd be a bit odd, wouldn't it? You'd be like, oh right, okay, cool. But if you're sitting on a panel to talk about the LGBTQIA+ community, then you might want to introduce yourself as that so that you can show that there is representation in, I don't know, a role that you're in, such a role or whatever.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that with those sorts of groups, the only way to really show that there's representation in, like, let's say senior roles or whatever, is by sharing stories.
Yeah.
And sharing those facts about yourself, and taking people taking people through your experiences.
So I think like you said, I think you're right. I think it very much depends on the situation. I think if you're trying to, like you said, if you're sitting on a panel or you're sitting in a senior role and you're trying to, show representation, then sometimes there is a need to share stories. Like I think I've been speaking to someone recently in a big business, and they are, in a senior role, but no one actually knows that they are from the LGBT community. And I was like, it's really important that you do share, you do share your story, because actually that is an element of diversity already there in a leadership role.
Oh, definitely.
That people already don't necessarily see. And actually it will empower other people potentially from the community to want...
And inspire.
Yeah, to inspire. And it's like, you're right, yeah, it is about sharing stories. It is really powerful. It's like Selene, for instance, talks so openly about, her neurodiversity. And I think it's so important, because especially with neurodiversity, with LGBT, I guess I still have like a lot of work to do with just talking about that space. Yeah. But I feel like with neurodiversity, there's not enough people talking about it. Whereas I do feel like with not so much trans, but like with LGBT, I do feel like the LGB with LGB.
Yeah.
With the LGB bit, there's a lot of people talking about it. I feel like it's actually a bit saturated with representation in my eyes. I feel like there is lack of representation potentially from the POC community, so people of colour, talking about LGBT matters and being out in the workplace because they're like, well, I'm already black or I'm already Asian. I don't want to add another fucking intersection into it, so I'm going to just stay in the closet for a while because there's no point. Whereas neurodiversity, there is just no one talking about neurodiversion. There is no representation anywhere with it. So I kind of feel like I kind of would park that LGB bit and focus more on the T and then focus a lot more on neurodiversity in terms of representation.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I can imagine that it's very difficult for people to talk about that sort of stuff.
What? Neurodiversion?
Yeah, to talk about, yeah.
Yeah, but do you think that's because?
Well, I think all of it. I think it's there's definitely people who find it extremely uncomfortable to talk about those personal parts of their lives. But like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Selene have really had to build up the confidence and work up the courage to speak as openly as she does now, and I think that's probably quite a tough journey.
Yeah, I can't wait to have her on the show.
Yeah.
She honestly, just listening to her talk just always fills me with so much hope and joy. And and I feel like we just need more people like her to be able to share their story. And I guess you're right, it is.
She's a little diamond.
She is a diamond. I feel like it is really hard to talk about stuff that is really personal to you because you have to first of all accept that it's something that is you and part of you before you can then open up about it and share it with other people. Which
is actually a really good point as well, because I mentioned before my youngest brother, Theo, he's 16 this year. He was diagnosed with ADHD and ODD when he was quite young. And if I say to him now, like, what's ADHD? He's like,
really?
I don't know. And it's almost like he's just him.
Yeah.
And he thinks the way that he thinks. And he doesn't really register that the way that he thinks is different to the way that other people think. But he just acts the way that he does. And it's almost like it hasn't
sunk in.
The penny hasn't dropped.
Yeah. But that may I don't know. Like, I do feel like there's kind of like something quite nice. The fact that it's not. That isn't who he. That's not the only thing that makes up who he is.
On the flip side of that, obviously he had his diagnosis when he was very young.
Yeah.
So I think he was probably about 3, and so he's spent his whole life knowing that that's part of him.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people have reached sort of teenage years or adulthood, still not having a diagnosis, but thinking that they think differently to other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've actually not really ever
clocked it,
thought about it like that. But yeah, he's very much like, just I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
himself.
Do you think he'll get to the point though where he'll want to learn more about what makes him the way he is?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's only, he's 15. He's into all sorts at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
So going back to the original question, if you want to show representation within neurodiversity and within the LGBTQ+IA community, the power is through storytelling. I mean, we talk about this all the time. The power of anything, the power of stories for everything is immense.
Yeah.
Not enough people share stories or even ask enough questions to be able to get the stories out of people.
Yeah, and it's literally like, it's a free resource. What?
There we go. I've got my cloth today. It's a free resource because so many people keep asking us for freebies.
No, but like just on a day-to-day, if you are just sharing experiences with people and listening intently, not listening to, not what I find these days so much is like you have conversations with people and people are just listening to respond.
Yeah, that's not listening intently.
Yeah. And it's so annoying.
That should be part of that. We should need to do something around listening intently and about what that actually means. We should do like a little tiki-toki.
Oh.
We should do a little tiki-toki, like an example of listening, an example of listening intently.
Yes, we're TikTokers.
Let us get into the E&I topic of the week. E&I topic of the week.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember what it was.
You brought this one to the table, so
I did
tell us.
actually. Yeah, I did. I just need to refresh my little memory. My poor memory. Oh, yes. So, the E&I topic of the week, I wanted to explore the importance of storytelling since, it's World Book Day. No, it's not. That was yesterday, but it's World Book Week.
Well, when this gets out, it won't be World Book Week anymore, but yeah.
But this week it is.
Yeah, this week it is World Book.
Next week it won't be, but this week it is. So this is what we're discussing. I wanted to talk about the importance of storytelling, first of all. And, I do kind of want to go over as well, like, language use and, when is it taken too far, and...
What? And
forgot my sentence.
Yeah, I was just like, where are you going with that? You're glitching.
Brain fart.
Oh, God.
Brain fart. Yeah, so basically, you said something the other day, which is a conversation that we've had before as well, about, and I've had it with a few different people, and lots of people have different opinions on this, but words have as much power as you give to them, right?
Mm.
Yeah. And,
the reason why I make that noise, people, is because me and Louisa and I think probably Ricky and Sean have had some serious debates about this in my garden in the summer last year.
And that's not the only time, but it's a recurring conversation normally when we're pissed.
Oh, God.
But yeah, words have as much power as you give to them. Language use is really important in this space.
Mm.
But why is it that we continuously push onus onto other people to watch their language when words do have as much power as we give them? So if I'm offended by a certain word, that's because I'm giving it its power to offend me.
Mm.
But language in this space is so important. We're always pushing the onus onto other people about, like, you've got to be careful of what language you use. So it's kind of like it's a contradiction in a way. And my question is, when is it taken too far?
Can we start at the beginning?
Sorry, I've waffled.
Let's take it back to the storytelling and then talk about language.
The importance of storytelling.
Yeah, let's talk about the importance of storytelling before we get into the actual...
Literally one of the most important tools within our work, I think.
And what do you mean by storytelling? I think maybe because some people won't understand what you mean by that. So yeah,
so storytelling is basically, in a nutshell, sharing our experiences through life. In a nutshell. Literally, nearly all of our workshops we started off.
In a nutshell.
It's because the topic is so bloody vast, you can't literally, you can't do a 2-hour workshop and go into, every
orifice.
avenue of...
Orifice.
Orifice. I actually don't know if that's the right way of saying it.
Oh.
Orifice. I think so, yeah.
So basically, when we do any sort of training, workshops, talks, we always use experiences that are either lived by us or that we've experienced through other people to tell a story about to bring things to life. That's what you're saying,
yeah,
right?
Bring things to life. So, if I'm going to talk about being discriminated against as a woman, then I would use my personal experiences of that happening directly to me or indirectly, other people's stories as well, which is why conversation is such a big part of our work and our workshops, sparking that conversation so that we can, collate other people's experiences and showcase them to others to really bring the work to life, as you said. And I think that's why our workshops are always bespoke, because we will always talk to a client about what experiences they're specifically having in their business, and then take those scenarios from them and embed them into our workshops and the content that we use to then educate their people.
Yeah. And I think, I've got like I've got like these thoughts in my head right now, which is like people going at home going, what do you mean? Like, how do you do that in a workplace, or and I think the how is what people are going to be sitting there going, how? And I'm like, the how is actually just have to ask people more questions.
Yeah.
Like, if you think to yourself, you're sitting at home right now, yeah, everyone, you're listening, right? So you're sitting out and you're listening.
Are we role playing?
Oh, I wasn't going to.
Oh,
no.
I totally got the wrong end of the stick
You
there.
did. I'm just saying, if you're at home and you're listening to this right now, picture this. The last time that you sat with your friend or you sat with someone at work, what did you talk about? What kind of questions did you ask them? Did you ask them very surface level questions, or did you ask them more stuff to get the granular detail? So, for instance, we could do a little role play now. Okay, let me get into character. I'm going to be Jennifer Coolidge. Just going to get my shoulder out. I've been wanting to do this all day.
So sick.
So my role play. Okay, cool. So how was your day?
Yeah, really good. Fine. Yeah, really nice. Thanks.
And what exactly was it that you were doing today?
Oh, I took the dog for a walk. Did the ironing. Watched a bit of Netflix.
How long have you had the dog for?
Oh, well, I've had the dog now for about 12, 14 months.
Oh, nice. What made you get the dog?
Lonely.
You were lonely. Oh, my
So
gosh.
lonely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really lonely.
Who do you live with?
Nobody.
Oh.
Just me on my own.
Okay. So immediately there, I've managed to find out information that she has a dog. She's lonely. And that's from asking more pressing questions and really unpicking, but it's about listening into the cues of different things and taking those and unpicking them. It's basically like picking a lock, isn't it?
Yeah, and also it might not be that easy
No.
to someone who is quite a closed book, but the point is layers of questions is what will get you to the, not the good stuff, but, I don't know how else to phrase it. Getting to know someone.
Yeah, it'll get you to the juice. Did I say the same thing? What did you say?
The good stuff.
The juice. But yeah, I think it is difficult. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I do think that we live in a world where we are all so busy and we're all so like stuck in our ways, and sometimes there's a fear from not wanting to ask the wrong questions and offend someone.
Yeah,
which then follows into your next bit around language. And I think you're right. There is like this thing about how words have as much power as you give them to a certain extent. I think personally there are words that offend me mainly because of obviously what I know from where the words stem from, and how they make me feel. And I think sometimes you can't take away the trauma that people have in them around words. Like,
no, you can't.
So it's not. So sometimes it's not just about how the word. You make the word make you feel. It could be that the word is attached to trauma.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is why I do think that it's not, the onus is not just on a collective society to alter the way that we speak, but also for us as individuals to heal whatever trauma is attached to the word that triggers us off, or not just a word, but just like language use, like, for instance, within the pronoun area, there are some people who get offended if you use the wrong pronoun, but at the moment, this is something that people are still learning to get to grips with. For somebody who identifies as the gender that they were assigned at birth and the way that they may think, it may not always land and for them to understand how somebody else feels who is not in the body that they want to be in. Do you know what I mean? So I think that it's cutting a little bit of slack for society to be able to like come up on this journey rather than reaching like offensive, rather than reaching like a moment of being offended.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the problem, I would say, arises when it feels like you've corrected people enough and they're not changing.
That is a totally different story. I understand that
But
completely,
that's
because
probably
that's frustration. Like,
yes, that's probably
I
the
fucking
little.
told you a million times.
Yeah.
Like, I do not want to be. I don't want you to refer to me as
I'm a they. I'm
blah, blah,
they,
blah.
and
Yeah.
you'll keep saying he,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's
frustration,
pissing me
and
off
that is-
now. I think you're right.
ignorance
Yeah.
on the other party, 100%. But I think like in the initial, do you know what? I have actually got an example. So I had a workshop whereby there was a person in the group that wanted to be referred to as they. They were non-binary. Okay, so we did an exercise that was around privileges. Privileges for sale. This is an activity that we do, and we have a list of privileges, and they all cost £100. And in your groups, you get a certain amount of money, and you can purchase whatever privileges it is that you want. You're stripped of privilege, basically. So, you know, you've got to start from scratch. You might have like £200 or £100 or £1,000, but you got to choose the privileges. So
Just gave away our whole activity.
yeah,
It's fine.
it's a good one.
It's a good activity.
So anyway, this person chose a particular privilege whereby I can't remember it word for word. Like, forgive me, but I can't. But
Verbatim.
essentially,
Verbatim. It's a word I learnt this week.
oh, what does it mean?
I can't remember it verbatim. I can't remember it word for word.
Oh, right, that's just like a summary of that sentence.
Yeah.
Love. Verbatim. But it was along the lines of this person would like to not have to introduce themselves and their pronouns as they. And my question to this person was, how do you expect anybody to know that you want to be referred to as they if you don't tell them?
Yeah.
And to be quite frank, this person did not have an answer.
I thought they did. I thought they had an answer.
No.
Oh, I thought they said that they had a badge.
Oh, right, yeah. The person had a badge on, yeah. But I was like, that's on your lanyard. You definitely don't wear that every day. Yeah. And also, nobody is looking for a badge.
What am I referring to?
Yeah, like,
to this person as?
It can't be that, it can't be that black and white. It's...
No, I think you're so right. I think it's about allowing people. We are all on a journey. We say it all the time. We are all on a journey, and I think, and that's why I have removed the anger part of me that makes me get frustrated with people who make mistakes in this space, because there is no point. No one's going to learn if you come at something from a place of frustration. That's why we always say don't call people out and stuff, like call people in. Yeah. And I think if you are someone that is non-binary, identifies as something different to what you are assigned to at birth, or what you look like physically, however you want to describe it, I think you have to be patient with people to a certain extent.
Oh, definitely. And this is the thing. I think that the intent behind it, you can definitely differentiate between those that are being plain fucking ignorant or rude to those that are curious, genuinely do want to understand, but are making mistakes because it's not something that they do understand and it's not something that they're used to.
I know, but then on the flip side, okay, because I always like to think about it's very difficult. It's easy for us to say because we're not in the situation, we're not in their shoes. But I can only imagine that if every day someone is coming up to you and calling you a he, and you identify as a she or identify as a they or them, it becomes grating because you're like, definitely. I am not that person. And I guess if
Definitely.
If I've today, for instance, I'm identifying as she, and all day I've been misgendered as a he, and you come up to me and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Olajide," and you're like, and you refer to me as a he, I may flip because I may be like, "I've just had a fucking full day of this. I'm a fucking she."
No, absolutely.
You know?
I totally get it, and that's the thing, isn't it? So that person is having a continuous experience, whereas each individual that gets, introduced or whatever to this person they've just started their experience with this person.
It's the first experience. Yeah.
So it's so tricky, and that's why I think the onus is on both parties.
Yeah, it is. It has to be. It has to be that. I think we all have to be a lot more patient with each other. I think we all have to be a lot more patient. We all have to be a lot more empathetic. You just never know what someone's gone through in a day before they've had that conversation with you.
Absolutely.
And so we all need to be more aware of like just watching how we speak to each other, and also watching people's reactions. You can immediately, if you misgender someone, you can immediately see, are you right there?
I've got an itchy eye, sorry.
You can immediately see it in someone's face, right? You can see someone's face immediately will be like sort of disappointed or reserved or like blank. So I think you can, if be more conscious of people's reactions, be more conscious of the situations that you're in. And a lot of the time, people that are non-binary, I feel like introduce themselves most of the time, that are people that are confident enough to, they'll introduce themselves as whatever they want to be referred to as.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, then it's up to you, because I feel like once you have had that person tell you, you need to make more of a conscious effort. And I still make the mistake.
No, absolutely.
I make the mistake all the time.
Once you've been told once, then, once is enough.
Yeah.
Essentially. Once is enough.
But then it will take you some time to get used to saying it. So, for instance, we have loads of people that we have that are non-binary in our network, and I'll sometimes go heel, and I'm like, oh shit, them, sorry, shit.
Yeah.
And I do it even if I'm in front of them. I will still
did it a minute ago.
I will self-correct even if I'm in front of that person. I'll be like, I'm so sorry, and it's fine. That is okay. Like, we need to get rid of that fear of not wanting to make that mistake.
That's the thing, because then, I have been in situations where I'm so like trying to be so conscious of it, to the point of like it's creating like a bit of an anxiety in me, because I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna fuck up, and I don't. But it is that fear factor, because you don't. Well, if you're a genuine person, you're nice, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, and you don't want to offend anybody. So it does create a little bit of a feeling sometimes.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where, again, I think Miss Mark spoken about it before, where it's about actually the more you go out of your way to try and learn more about different people's experiences through storytelling, you will start to understand how someone may feel in those situations where they do get misgendered, or where the wrong language is used around them, because I feel like I have my brain was just trying to recollaborate there.
I just thought of that. Oh my god, there's definitely a film that's like where I don't know what it is now, the film, but I just had a scene from a film where they're like,
My brain was literally just going at 100 miles an hour. It was just like empty. No, there's definitely been moments where I've been around people of late, and they're like, I would never have known that.
Yeah.
I would never have understood that until you've told me about that. I would never have thought that would have been something that you would have experienced.
Definitely. And being, you have to kind of like immerse yourself in the community that you want to learn more about. Like,
I wouldn't say what, immerse is quite like a heavy word, no? Immerse.
Take it as you please.
Oh God.
No, what I mean is like have some connections, find out about people. For instance, talking about like the trans community and non-binary, there is a person that springs to mind for me, Chris King, who is very vocal on LinkedIn and shares a lot of his... Oh, I've just done it now, see? a lot of their experiences on LinkedIn, that kind of like allows you to journey with them. So, you know, I feel like this is happening because I just said what I said, and now I'm like super duper being like,
sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I am super sorry. I am. Anyway, the content that they put out, is very personal. It's very honest. It's very open. It's very detailed as well. And from those posts, I feel like I can empathize way more with the experiences that that person is going through, or that, you know, someone from that community is going through, because they are putting it out there, because, you know, they're allowing a window into what life. Their life, into what that looks like. I would never have known anything about it without having people post the way that they do.
Yeah, and I think that's the aha moment that we like to create in this podcast.
Yeah.
Right there. It's all about trying to broaden your network so that you are able to potentially get a window into other people's experiences.
Yes.
From different characteristics, from different backgrounds, from different social groups, etc., etc., etc.
Chris storytells fabulously.
Sorry?
Chris storytells fabulously.
Yeah. Chris is a really good storyteller, and I think there's so many amazing storytellers on social media these days that you can follow.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll put a couple of them in the show notes for this one, just like a couple of people that we like to follow. That could be quite useful. But yeah, I think storytelling can be so powerful. And I wrote a quote this week. That's what I was trying to find on my laptop. I wrote this thing this week about storytelling. I want to read it out because I think it's interesting that we're doing storytelling this week, and we did that post. And we wrote this on LinkedIn. And it says, storytelling is a powerful tool for communication and has been an integral part of human culture for thousands of years. Stories are used to entertain, to teach, to inspire, and to connect people on a deep emotional level.
Oh, that's really nice.
And then there was a quote by Maya Angelou, who, by the way, is a G. I honestly, I need to get a Maya Angelou quote book. In fact, that's what I'm going to get myself.
Does that exist?
I don't know. I feel like there must be one. I just love her. You should listen to her talk and listen to her sing. Honestly, her voice is like, Maya Angelou, and I can't do it, but she's just got this like quite deep voice, and she's amazing. Anyway. Fangirl moment.
I've heard her speak, but not sing.
She does I suppose it's like more like spoken word rather than sing.
Right, okay.
So Maya Angelou said, there is no greater agony than start again. Sorry. Get my teeth back in.
Got some, we're literally getting tongue twisted left, right and centre.
Also, my throat is my throat is really dry, and I keep drinking water. It's not helping.
Oh.
There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you.
Love that.
Love
that.
And I feel like we're all desperate to share our stories and to share our experiences.
Telling stories is part of healing as well. Like, it's healing your own traumas at the end of the day when you know, it's like...
Therapy.
What is it? Yeah, therapy, yeah, exactly. But what is it they say? Like, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah. Is that what they say? Problem shared is a problem halved. I thought it was a problem shared is a problem gained. No, that's not. Yeah, you probably got it right. Yeah.
Literally,
cool.
what are they called?
Antidotes.
Fuck's sake.
Anecdotes.
No, but it's not an anecdote. It's a
proverb.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Moving on swiftly, which you brought to the table. I always get really excited when you bring an E&I topic of the week to the table, because I always get like, where's it going to go?
Where is it going to go?
Where is it going to go?
I'm feeling somewhat sheepish because I remember tapping in this little, like, quick thought and then being like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 and thinking to myself, like, oh, yeah, this is a good thing to question about. And now I'm looking at it, I don't quite have the narrative. I'm going to be totally authentic with you all. What I wanted to talk about was Disruptor versus disruption.
Sorry.
Bear with. I'm getting really hot. Look, I think I'm getting my heat rash. Might need to take my jumper off.
Oh my God, your face has gone so red.
Oh my God. My ear is literally burning up. Okay. So basically, disruptor versus disruption. Now, okay, I kind of remember my train of thought now.
Oh, good.
So when you have a large corporation, yeah, so you've got multiple departments, big departments, right, with varying different teams within those departments. How do you create or draw out synergy between the disruptor and the disruptive? And what I'm labeling as disruptor and disruptive is this. The disruptor is somebody who wants to make positive change, cultural change, is, elevating certain strategies. And then you have got the disruptive who do not agree with positive change, any change, actually. And kind of talk about the stuff that should be done but don't actually do it. So let's, for instance, say you've got somebody in senior leadership in a certain department who is going, oh yeah, okay, right, we need to do well-being. Everyone here is talking about well-being and we need to address this, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God, I've got such a good example of this recently.
Hang on. And then you've got another department with similar person, role, talking the same talk but actually doing the walk at the same time. So that's the disruptor. And then you've got the disruptive in another department who is talking the talk but not actually doing the walk, doesn't believe in what they're saying, just saying it for the sake of saying it because that's what everyone wants to hear. Am I making sense? Are you following?
I understand, yeah. So there's the disruptor sometimes is the one that the disruptor affects the disruptor. So the disruptor is potentially changing things and it's going to affect the disruptor.
So basically, you've got a strategy, a company-wide strategy, and the strategy is this: well-being is an objective, and we need to make sure that we're supplying our employees with a good well-being strategy, with resources, blah blah blah. And then you've got one person in senior leadership in one department who is actively doing that, and then you've got one person in senior leadership in a different department who is saying it, but actually still working their team into the ground and not taking it on board whatsoever. But this is the company-wide strategy. And everyone's shouting about what the good senior leadership person is doing, the good senior leader. And, oh my gosh, this company is amazing because we're doing all of these things around well-being, la la la. But this poor cousin of a department over here is actually not reaping the benefits of that because their senior leader doesn't actually believe in doing it, in doing the work. So they're still going about their business, with a toxic work culture, la la la. How do you create synergy between all departments across big businesses like that? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what do people need to be doing?
Well, I think the first step is acknowledging that what the disruptor is doing is beneficial and on a scale. Because I think sometimes the disruptor can sometimes feel like quite isolated in itself because you're questioning the status quo, you're pushing boundaries, you're coming in with new ideas, and if you're not necessarily been acknowledged that those ideas are beneficial for the business and they're going to be impactful, sometimes that then doesn't cascade down so people don't see it as important. So
yeah, but I'm talking about people who are on the same level here and they're big shots.
Yeah, I know, but some, like, for instance, there's a business that I worked with who, we wanted to implement a mentoring program for ethnic minority groups.
Yeah.
It's always been a strategy. One of the pillars of the strategy is improving representation.
Yeah.
It's been something we've been talking about for ages with the board, whatever, within the business. Yeah. Improving representation is like the goal is that. Always been the goal. CEO has cascaded it down and mentioned it. The board of directors have cascaded it. It's everyone knows about it. But yet when we talk about bringing this mentorship program into place, one of the leaders says, I don't understand how this is the right thing to do because I feel uncomfortable that I will have to go and tell people that aren't from an ethnic minority background that this mentorship program isn't open to them.
Oh.
And I'm like, but the message is we're improving representation.
Yeah.
We're not. So you need to go and tell Gary that, and ask Gary if Gary found it difficult to get his role because of the colour of his skin.
Yeah.
And Gary will turn around and probably say, no, I didn't. And you can ask Gary, do you see many other people that are different to you as in leadership roles in this business? And Gary will go, no. So then you go, well, there you go. You've solved, that's there is no question.
Yeah.
But he is disruptive. He just doesn't see that this beneficial for the team, and he sees it as being more difficult. Disrupting is more difficult than not disrupting. So what I'm saying is that at that point, the CEO needs to be reiterating, acknowledging the fact that the disrupting is what the business needs right now.
Yeah.
That if you do not acknowledge that disrupting is where the business is moving towards, then those people that are disruptive within the business won't see it as important, and so it doesn't cascade down, if that makes sense. E&I is not a sprint. It's a fucking marathon, people.
It is a marathon. Get your blimmin' blister packs out.
Blister packs out. Oh my God, that should be our tagline. This is a marathon. Get your fucking blister plasters out. Let's go.
Get those toe straps.
Yeah, so we thought we'd just talk about how this is a marathon, not a sprint. We don't have the magic wand, people. We don't. Like, I think, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I think a lot of people are obviously trying to do a lot of things in this space, and it is incredible to start to see. What I am struggling with is the idealization. I can't say that.
I can't say it now either. Bloody hell.
The idealization that if you get a DEI consultant to come in, they will come in, do a workshop, and your problems will be solved. And I think, I'm sorry to say, but you're living in a fantasy world, okay?
Yeah.
Because you have to come at this at a, let's start the journey. This journey is going to take us some time, and we may not fix the problem, but at least we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that I'm starting to see a lot of, where people are starting to not really understand that this is longevity.
And you can't just tackle it from one angle.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You can't just be like, oh, okay, well, we'll have a workshop and then we'll be done with it, and that's all right. And everything will be fixed, and we won't have to do anything else, and we don't have to worry about data, and we don't have to worry about, how our people actually feel. It's from every angle. That's why it's called a strategy.
Yeah. And I also think that you can't, this is going to come out like wrong, but I'm going to say it as it comes to me. You cannot expect us to come in and you put all the pressure and the onus on us, because that's why we always say it's about collaborating. Because
it's super collaborative.
It's not down to me to come in and tell you how to run your business, or how to, and for me to then deliver a training, and then for it to all be down to me to fix the problem, or for us to fix the problem. It's down to all of us as a collective to go, let's do this together. Yeah. And there's no it's up to you to fix this problem. It's it's down to all of us.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a group activity. Okay.
Yeah, and I think, particularly if you're going to hire in a third party, such as Sisu, if you're going to hire a consultant, then you have to remember that consultants, they work with different industries, different brands, and everyone's problems and challenges are very, very unique to the brand. They are not same size fits all. Everyone has something different, and that's why the work has to be collaborative, because everywhere we go, we are tackling different issues, and we are tackling different feelings and emotions within the business as a collective and individuals. And
different types of people as well that literally respond to it in such different ways.
Yeah, of course. That's a definite. And also just on the collaborative piece, sorry, before we move on, that's why we always say when someone says to us, whose job is it within the business to work on this? And then we say, it's everyone's job. It's all departments. You need somebody from marketing, you need somebody from recruitment, you need somebody from HR and the people team, and wherever. It's got to be a gold thread running through the flesh of your business. A gold vein.
A gold thread running through the flesh of your business. That should be another one of our taglines. Sisu, a gold thread running through the flesh of your business. We're here for one more day, peeps. One more day. I think it's so true, and I think that's why, like, when we come and talk to, like, for instance, I had a client meeting this afternoon even, and I'm starting to have to make it really clear that we are not about coming in and doing something for a moment. It's about coming in and doing something for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's about collaborating, because I think, like, someone asked me the other day, and they were like, so if we do, like, the foundation workshop, do you think that will be it?
Yeah.
Or do you think we need to do that, every 6 months? And I was like, no, I think you're kind of not really understanding how this works. The foundation workshop is a great thing to do, and yes, you should probably do a refresher course of it. But there's also so much more that you need to learn, but you need to learn that from talking to your people.
Yeah.
And you need to use the data to drive your decisions, and you need to do so much more than just doing one workshop.
Yeah.
And you need to understand how you can move the dial in your business because you tell us how you think that can be done. We can't come in and tell you how that can be done, because every business is so different. We can merely suggest things.
Yeah.
And we can merely steer you in the right direction and support you along the journey.
And all suggestions come off of the information that's given. So as long as that is, tenfold, then we can make the best the suggestions for you.
Yes, so that's similar to how our training workshops work. It's good to talk about it, because we call ourselves a creative brand who like to bespoke our training. It doesn't just come off the shelf and we just plug it in.
No.
We like to go into a brand and go, right, actually, how do you train currently? What's training look like for you? What are the stuff that you're seeing within your business that are coming up time and time again? So, like, give us some scenarios, give us some situations that we can use as examples.
Yeah.
That we can use to then educate and train and give people the tools on how to deal with those scenarios if it was to come up again.
Yeah.
But it's like, we need to understand your business entirely.
Yeah, and that's why we have the first port of call for us is to have the exploratory telephone calls and the discovery meetings ahead of us giving you any suggestions, really, because that's how we know what to provide.
I think people, I guess people also, from seeing it from the client perspective, is that people don't also know what to say. I feel like people get a bit awkward. Like,
I think there's
with the
still a lot of
scenarios.
people in panic mode.
Yeah.
And that's why this, like, can we do this workshop and then this will basically solve all of our problems? I think it's because people are still, a lot of brands are still in that panic mode of wanting to do something but not knowing what to do.
Yeah, I guess. It's like they know they need to do something, but they don't know what. So they just go, just whatever you think is best. But
that's just why it's so imperative to bring your people into the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it is mandatory.
It's mandatory. Well, it is, because I think if you do, especially if you're like a leader of a business and you're doing it from an aerial perspective, like you're looking at the business from the top down, you're like, well, this is what we think, but actually you don't understand what they think and what the bottom people think and the middle people and everyone else, then you're going to come at it from the wrong angle.
Yeah.
And that's quite difficult, I guess, for brands to know how to have that conversation. So, for instance, we always say to the clients, like, it's really important that you decide on what your statement per se is to your, like, what are you going out to the business to say, this is why we're doing this work, this is why it's important to us, these are our values, this is what we are aligning ourselves to, and this is then what potentially we're going to be looking at doing, and this is why we're doing that as well, because otherwise there's no groundwork before we come in and do a
it's all
workshop.
A bit baffling.
People just sit there and they're just like,
yeah, it's a bit baffling.
Yeah.
And you know, if you are going third party and you are hiring consultancy, that agency, consultancy, whatever you want to call it, they should be helping you with that.
Yeah.
You know, like we will always put together a graphic, put together an explanation of the any workshops that we may be running with you, introduce ourselves ahead of the workshop, and make sure that you have, you know, that the brand itself are sending out comms to get people engaged ahead of any educational pieces.
Yeah, it's really important. I think that groundwork is laid, otherwise it falls to death's ear. And you don't want that because it just becomes a waste of money. And it's also quite disheartening for us as well, isn't it? Like,
absolutely.
When you do training and then you realise that the groundwork hasn't been laid, so you're just standing there talking to a room and people aren't really responding.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a bit like, oh God.
Yeah.
It's daunting, to be honest. It's quite daunting.
It is daunting. It is demoralising because at the end of the day, you know, we personally are doing this work because we're passionate about it, because we want to see change, because we want to make change, because we want to, you know, enhance positivity and positive direction and culture. And, you know, when you get faced with, I don't know, a room that's maybe not so engaging because they don't really understand why they're there, because it hasn't been communicated by the business, it is quite disheartening because what we want to land isn't going to land well.
Yeah. It's a marathon, people. It's a marathon. And I mean, what I also wanted to talk about is like how the sessions are pulled together. Like, you know, we build sessions and we use theory, we use data, we use creativity to bring the sessions to life. And so I feel like sometimes when we're standing up with our session plans and people are like, why are they reading from a script?
Oh, I know.
And someone asked me once, I don't know who it was, someone asked me once and was like, are you reading from a script? And I was like, I'm not reading from a script, but I have got a piece of paper where I've got my notes on it because I need to make sure that what I say lands and I say it the right way.
Absolutely.
There's bits inside our sessions where I can go off on a tangent and it's great because it makes it more real, but there's bits that has to land with the right wording and the right way for it to make sense. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so that we do have session plans that we write.
Yeah.
And that we use as our.
I think that's one thing people need to remember. It's still ours. It's still us, our voices. It's still what we created that. We put that together. That's still Sisu voice.
It's still our voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because everything is so tailored and bespoke to each individual client brand, everything is very different. As Olajide mentioned earlier, nothing's off the shelf. So, you know, it's easier to have it all in front of us for each individual brand and client, so that we make sure it lands well, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. And like for us, it's like we realise that, I don't know, like there's so much to like learn. There's so much to learn. And like, I will hold my hand up to say that I don't know everything about everything. So sometimes I need to make sure I have something in front of me so I make sure I say the right thing. So when I've gone and because we do so much research. We read so much stuff. Like so much stuff. We have to keep up to date with the news. We have to keep up to date with what's going on in the law changes, in politics, in working environments. It's literally so much information that's currently like logged in this head.
Yeah.
So then when you go in front of people, you don't want to just like say the wrong thing. Not even just say the wrong thing, but say the wrong thing.
Yeah, and get everything sort of arse about tit.
Arse about tit.
Well, it's true, isn't it?
I've never heard that before.
Arse about tit.
What does that mean?
All over the place.
Arse about tit.
That's quite a common one.
Never heard it. Has anyone in there heard it? Yeah.
Even Jessie has.
Has Jessie heard it?
That was Jessie.
Oh, I thought that was James. Got very deep there. Anyway, so what we're saying here, peeps, the society, is we want people to understand that you can't do this in a hot minute.
No.
You can't. And if you really want to do it properly, you want to make sure that it's embedded into your everyday.
Yeah.
And so that takes time. That takes culture shift. That takes leadership mentality shift. That takes months of workshops, surveying, checking in, listening, adapting. And so that does not happen in 2 hours.
You can't clean up a hot mess in a hot minute.
Oh, so we've come to the end of the road. Stay brave, stay curious,
and stay honest.